Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to CEW.Manufacturing. Today we're moving back into the world of fiberglass. We are making an adapter bracket that goes between an FIA fuel filler dual nozzle thing, picture on the screen, and a VZ Holden Commodore. So this is the FIA fuel filler bracket mounting area there. That there is the VZ Commodore skin you can see around the edge, and then you can see this section here will be the bracket itself. So what we're going to do for this is we're just going to use a 5-minute araldite from Sellies, mix up a bit of it, whack it on the bottom here, glue this thing down, and then once it's glued and cured, we're going to use some lightweight body filler to fill in all the 3D printing step marks that you might be able to see there. Smooth it off, hit it with a high build primer, and then hit it with some gloss paint. So we get a nice plug, and then from that plug we're going to make our parts. Any questions? Let's get going. So we have our mould here, it's all waxed up, there's about 6 coats of wax on it just to prevent things sticking. It's not the best surface finish, but again, as I always say, this is a race car part, so it doesn't need to be 100% cosmetic, it just needs to be functional, and this part, or this mould, will pull quite nicely, I hope. So what we're going to do is make about a 1.8mm thick layup over this surface here, and then we'll end up with about 2.5mm or so on these two surfaces here where this attaches to the car and then this attaches to the fuel filler. To do that, we're going to use 8 layers of 2x2 twill on this surface here, 200 grams per square metre glass, and then it's going to spill over onto these 2 mating surfaces. In addition to that, the 2 mating surfaces will also have another 8 layers of 25mm tape. The resin hasn't changed to the kinetic series with the fast hardener, ultra fast hardener, and the very slow cure resin set. Gives me about a 4-hour open laminate time and a 1-hour pot life. Should be miles of time for doing this, fingers crossed. I'm just going to be using a brushed layup for this, so I will actually put it in a vacuum bag at the end just to consolidate, but I won't be pre-pregging my fibres like I normally will. I'll just be laying them onto the mould and tacking them down to a wet mould surface. So a while ago, someone commented on my channel and they really enjoy the fact that I show my failures as well as my successes. That is an abject failure. The resin kicked far earlier than I expected. I had lost about probably 15 minutes, so about 25 minutes in, the resin kicked, and it became, unusable. I didn't get a chance to get in a bag. It started going through a heat cycle right in front of my eyes. So I just threw the peel fly on it, I smoothed it out and pushed it down as far as I could. It should still provide a workable, note, I say workable, part. Like, it's on the surface that we care about is actually the mould surface. The backside, which looks pretty average, is not what we care about. That should still provide a workable part. It's heavier than I want. It looks like shit. It doesn't talk to my professionalism. So what we're going to do now is we're going to leave that, we're going to let it cure, let it set up. We're back, it's the next day, so there's plenty of time to cure. Let's demold it and just see how bad it is. First up is positive section. We can see that we've got about a bunch of air bubbles in here. None of this got sucked out by the vacuum because there was no vacuum. It seems to have actually conformed relatively well around the sides and around the top here. If we turn this around, there's a reasonable level of conforming around the sides here, so it should be decent. So that wasn't meant to happen. The part is still in the mould, but the mould is now off the board. Alright, so we have some good news and bad news. Good news is the part has come off and it actually looks reasonably usable. Like, it's not the most aesthetic part, but again, for the job it's doing, it will suffice. The surface finish where the resin stayed attached to the mould is actually really quite nice. I'm pretty happy with that, so process is good. Bad news is the wax didn't release as well as it needed to. Now that's either because the spray paint for the mould was too new and it was outgassing still and then was still a reactive surface. Or alternately because the wax wasn't good enough. So I think that I might have to look at what I'm using as a mould surface in the future, but you know, we'll just go from there. Bad news is it took a judicious application of force to remove it. So I had to give it a good old whack with a persuading tool, and it came off. And the mould's got a little bit of damage on it, we can see here, so you get these bits in these areas. It's probably reusable with some touch-up. We'll see if we need to make another one. So that's pretty light. It's better than I expected it would be. It's nice and stiff and strong. Now I just need to clean up all these edges. So that's the actual build of this part done, so let's just cover off some really quick lessons learned. So first up is I underestimated the cure time, or the pot life of that resin. It did say 40 minutes on the lid, but I got about 25 minutes out of it. It's a bit warm here, we are in Australia, so I might have to take smaller batches next time, just so that we don't have those issues. But it's a lesson learned. I think what I should have done probably is infuse this. It would have given you nicer conformance to the part, by using some, say, 3M Super 77 to tack everything down in place, throw the bag over it, infuse it as a single part. I think that would have been a much nicer consolidated and stronger part. Second lesson learned is you can see down here, like we've had the paint pull off the mould in some places. I think I need to let the paint cure for a bit longer just so it can fully outgas and just get rid of all that reactivity so that it's no longer a surface. Even though I had 5 coats of wax on it, even though I had that much wax on it, it still caught. Third lesson learned is the wax. I've been meaning for a long time to try and use a chemical release agent instead of wax. I think this might be the kicker that'll get me using that, because the mould now, you know, it's recoverable, but you know, there's a lot of work and effort put into that, and there is potential for more of these parts to be required. So I'm going to have to do a lot of effort and work to fix that mould. So watch this space. I'm going to try and get my hands on some chemical release agent. That's all I got. Thanks for watching, guys, and if you like my content, please consider subscribing. I'm trying to get that 1,000 subscriber number so I can get some of that sweet, sweet YouTube money, and then I can actually spend money on release agent bits and pieces rather than dipping into my fortnightly budget. But, guys, thanks again. Thanks for your time, and I hope to see you next time.